Welcome to my channel Alane Signal. The arena lights dim, casting long shadows across the metallic floor. Thousands of spectators filled the towering stands, their voices merging into a restless hum. Above them, holographic banners flickered, displaying statistics, bets, and the names of fighters who had either risen to fame, or died trying. This was the crucible of Varnick Station, a place where strength wasn't just admired, it was worshipped. And today, the crowd was especially eager. Because today, something unusual had entered the ring. A human. She stood alone at the center of the arena, barefoot, dressed in a simple, worn gray suit. No armor, no visible weapons, no enhancements gleaming beneath her skin. Just empty hands. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. Contestant designation, Terra-born. Name, Mara Vance. No cybernetic augmentations detected. No plasma-class weaponry registered. A wave of laughter rippled through the audience. Opponent, Grolkor of the Iron Maw clan. The ground trembled as the gates on the opposite side slid open. Grolkor stepped into the light, and the laughter turned into thunderous cheers. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, his body covered in layered exoskeletal plates that shimmered like polished steel. 4 arms, each thicker than Mara's torso, ended in clawed hands capable of tearing through reinforced alloy. His lower jaw jutted outward, lined with serrated teeth that gleamed as he grinned. He didn't just look powerful. He looked unstoppable. Grolkor paused, studying Mara. Then his deep, rumbling voice echoed across the arena. "This is the opponent," he growled. "A fragile, unarmed creature." Mara said nothing. She simply stood there, calm, her breathing steady. Grolkor chuckled, a low, mocking sound. "I have crushed warriors in exosuits. I have ripped apart mech pilots with my bare claws. And they send me." He gestured at her with one massive hand. "This." The crowd roared with laughter again. Mara tilted her head slightly. "You're done?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. Grolkor's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I'm not done," he said. "I am deciding whether to make your death quick, or entertaining." Mara exhaled slowly. "Entertaining," she said. "Definitely entertaining." The buzzer sounded. The match had begun. Grolkor moved first. The sheer speed of his charge shocked even the crowd. For something so massive, he was impossibly fast. His claws slammed into the ground where Mara had been standing. But she wasn't there anymore. A ripple of confusion spread through the audience. Mara had stepped aside, not jumped, not sprinted, just moved. Precise, efficient, effortless. Grolkor turned, irritation flashing across his face. "Run," he snarled. "It will only make it worse." Mara didn't respond. She shifted her stance slightly, her weight balanced, her gaze fixed on him. Grolkor attacked again, this time with all 4 arms. A flurry of strikes rained down, each one capable of pulverizing steel. The air itself seemed to crack under the force. But Mara wasn't there, or rather, she was always just barely not there. She slipped between his attacks, her movements fluid, almost minimal. No wasted energy, no dramatic leaps, just perfect timing. The crowd's laughter began to fade. Grolkor roared in frustration, slamming his fists into the ground, sending a shockwave rippling across the arena. Mara slid back, her feet skimming across the floor, absorbing the impact. Still unarmed, still untouched, still calm. "You mock me," Grolkor growled. Mara finally spoke. "No," she said, "you're doing that yourself." The insult landed harder than any blow. Grolkor lunged again, but this time, Mara didn't retreat. She stepped forward. The shift was so unexpected that Grolkor hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. That was all she needed. Mara moved inside his reach. The crowd gasped. It was suicide. At that distance, Gulkur's strength would be overwhelming. His lower right arm swung toward her. And she caught it. The arena fell silent. It didn't make sense. His arm was thicker than her entire body. The force behind the strike should have shattered her bones instantly. But her hand locked onto his limb. And stopped it. Completely. Gulkur froze, confusion flickering across his face. How? Mara twisted. There was a sharp, sickening crack. Gulkur roared in pain as one of his arms bent at an unnatural angle. The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in stunned disbelief. Mara released the broken limb and stepped back. Gulkur staggered, his breathing heavy. That's impossible, he hissed. Mara flexed her fingers slightly. Not really, she said. You just don't understand how humans work. Gulkur charged again, enraged. Pain only made him more dangerous. His remaining arms came down like hammers, faster, more aggressive, less controlled. Mara moved with him. This time, she wasn't just evading. She was guiding. Every step she took forced Gulkur to adjust. Every movement she made subtly redirected his momentum. It was like watching a storm being shaped by invisible currents. And then, she struck. A single punch. It landed against the side of his torso. The sound echoed through the arena. Not loud, not dramatic, just precise. Gulkur stumbled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his entire body convulsed. He dropped to one knee, gasping. What did you do? He choked. Mara stepped back again. Disrupted your breathing cycle, she said. Your species relies on a secondary pressure chamber in your rib structure. You left it unprotected. Gulkur's eyes widened. She had studied him, understood him. In seconds, the crowd was no longer cheering. They were watching. Gulkur forced himself back to his feet, fury burning in his eyes. You think yourself superior, he snarled. Mara shook her head. No, she said, just prepared. He roared and launched himself at her one final time. Everything he had left, strength, speed, rage, poured into that attack. Mara didn't dodge. She stepped forward. Again, at the last possible moment, she shifted her body, redirecting his charge. Her hand shot out, and drove straight into his chest. Not with brute force, with precision. Her fingers slipped between the plates of his exoskeleton, finding the narrow gap near his central rib cluster. And then, she squeezed. The crack echoed like a gunshot. Gulkur's roar turned into a strangled gasp. His body locked up, then collapsed. The arena fell completely silent. Mara stood over him, her breathing steady, her expression unchanged. Gulkur lay on the ground, barely conscious, his massive frame trembling. His ribs, once thought unbreakable, had been crushed from the inside. By empty hands. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the announcer's voice, shaky and uncertain, broke the silence. Winner, Mara Vance. The crowd didn't erupt. Not yet. They were still trying to understand what they had just witnessed. A creature with no weapons. No armor. No visible enhancements. Defeating one of the most feared warriors in the sector. Mara turned and began walking toward the exit. One of the officials hurried toward her. Wait, he said. The audience, your victory, don't you want to say something? Mara paused. She glanced back at the arena. At Gulkur. At the stunned crowd. Then she spoke. You laughed at empty hands, she said. Because you thought strength had to be visible. She held up her hand, flexing her fingers slightly. Humans learned a long time ago, she continued, that the most dangerous weapons aren't the ones you can see. She lowered her hand. They're the ones you don't understand. As she left the arena, the silence finally broke. But it wasn't laughter anymore. It was something else. Something quieter. Something heavier. respect. Later, in the dim corridors beneath the arena, Mara leaned against a cold metal wall and closed her eyes. Her muscles trembled slightly now that the fight was over. The adrenaline was fading. A voice crackled in her earpiece. "Nice work," it said. Mara smirked faintly. "Was there ever any doubt?" She replied. A pause. "Always," the voice admitted. "He was bigger, stronger, augmented." Mara opened her eyes. "Yeah," she said, "but he relied on it." She pushed herself off the wall and started walking. "Humans don't have that luxury." The voice on the other end chuckled. "Guess that's why they keep sending you." Mara didn't answer, because she knew the truth. They didn't send her because she was the strongest, or the fastest, or the most enhanced. They sent her because she understood something most of the galaxy didn't. Strength wasn't about power. It was about control, about precision, about knowing exactly where, and when, to strike. And sometimes, all it took was empty hands. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.